Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Loom Knight here, and I normally don't watch reviews for games, considering the fact that they are pretty notorious for not getting the right kind of people to test the games, which leads to some very obscure ratings and reviews. But I did hear some pretty interesting things, to say the least, about IGN's review for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. And being someone who enjoys the Monster Hunter series, I figured I'd try something a little bit different, and I'm actually going to react to their review. It's about 8.5 minutes, and we're just going to check it out. Apparently it did have a very good like to dislike ratio, so I'm kind of interested to see what is actually in this review and how good, or rather how bad, it may be. So
Sunbreak is essentially structured like a brand new game, introducing the functionally identical hub town of Elgato to operate out of, and a fresh storyline there to follow. That story is once again a largely ignorable and entirely predictable tale about how something is making the local monsters all hot and bothered, this time set in the European-themed kingdom rather than the Japanese-inspired Kimura. Its characters are at least slightly more interesting this time around, but plot has never been the draw of the mainline Monster Hunters, and that certainly doesn't change here. As has become the time-honored tradition.
I mean, I feel like you can say yes or no to that. I mean, I've always looked at plot in games like, you know, fighting games and Monster Hunter as just kind of like subjective. It's as deep and detailed as you want it to be. Because the storylines in both Monster Hunter Rise, you know, Sunbreak, and as well as Iceborne have a lot of details. Like, if you spend time going around talking to, you know, the NPCs and other like important characters in between quests and stuff, there's actually a lot of details that go on in the background of these stories. But if you're just going from, you know, mission to mission trying to rank up, you're not really gonna catch a lot of that. So I feel like you can say it's not a main point, but at the end of the day, it just depends on the person, you know?
The expansion immediately makes all of your gear irrelevant by introducing Master Rank, a higher tier of hunts full of more difficult versions of the base game's monsters, as well as an assortment of new and returning monsters to take on.
This is something I also kind of, I guess, pseudo disagree with. Maybe low rank gear, but high rank gear, I don't think it makes it completely irrelevant at all. I understand what they're saying, as in you're going to want to move up, I guess, in the tier list of armors, but it really doesn't make it completely irrelevant. Like, you'll do just as fine with your high rank gear in Master Rank. You might get hit a little bit harder, but the main thing that you really want to focus on is upgrading the weapons. Other than that, like, your high rank gear will do just fine.
That's not a complaint though, as it's legitimately fun to have the bar reset so drastically, with plenty of powerful armor pieces and weapon upgrades to gleefully chase all over again. And while it's by no means a new trick in Monster Hunter's bag, one of Master Rank's greatest strengths has always been that it gives monsters altered behaviors and fresh moves to make them a renewed challenge without just raising their stats. Both the brand new monsters and the ones returning from previous Monster Hunter games continue Rise's trend of being as stellar to look at as they are to fight. A new trio referred to as the Three Lords are all particularly great.
Okay, I just want to say one thing. If they've recorded this on PC, couldn't they, like, it's not a big pet peeve, but it's like, if you're going to do a review, especially from a kind of prestigious company like IGN, can they at least did it in 60 FPS? That's all I'm saying. Like, can you get somebody to record it in 1080p 60? Just so you don't get, like, all this artifacting and, like, it properly shows all the monsters. All that. Just a small pet peeve.
Garangolm's rocky ape-like appearance disguises its explosive mobility and surprising elemental effects. Lunagaron puts a fun twist on a traditional werewolf theme. And Malzeno's vampire-inspired moveset genuinely shocked me the first time I saw it blink around the battlefield. Older returning foes like Astalos and Gormagala fit right in as well, looking better than ever while providing an excitingly fresh challenge for anyone who hasn't had a chance to face them before. As for where you'll do that, Sunbreak adds 2 new locales. The Jungle, a tropical island originally introduced in Monster Hunter 2 that has been masterfully reimagined thanks to Rise's seamless 3D maps, and the Citadel, a delightfully eclectic space that can stretch a single hunt from poisoned swamps to snowy peaks to a huge ruined castle. While I like the Citadel more thematically, the Jungle's condensed layout makes it Rise's most convenient map to hunt on yet. It feels as if it learned the valuable lesson that collecting Speary Birds for a stat boost at the start of each quest shouldn't be such a hassle, too, giving you a huge patch of them just a wire bug ride away from your starting tent. But both localities.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good thing. I do like how layered the new jungle area is. Like, it's a fairly small map, but it has a lot of verticality. And for someone like me who doesn't really like to go around collecting a lot of spear birds, I definitely appreciate there being a lot of them close by, so you can just hop in right into the hunt and just, get into it.
Those are quite entertaining to explore in their own ways, packed with even more little secrets waiting to be found.
Nice view.
Quite a riot.
Speaking of fixing some of the mistakes of Rise, Rampages have been given the boot to an almost comical degree. Rampage quests don't seem to have been updated in any way. The Rampage weapon tree is practically the only one that didn't get extended with new upgrade options.
Nope, that
and
is
new
true.
weapons scrap the Rampage skill system entirely in favor of a decoration slot that's only fillable with special Rampage decorations, which have no connection beyond the name. It's a stunning reversal, though not an entirely surprising one given how dull the repetitive nature of Rampage quests eventually became.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where the Rampage quests were a very good idea. I think they were done well, but could have done a lot better. At first, it's like a really nice spectacle. You get to see, kind of hunt with all your different characters for like a short period of time. You get to see who I call Demon Lord Yamogi, as she goes absolutely insane on her minigun. It was a really nice touch, a really different take on like Monster Hunter hunts. But at the end of the day, I think they could have done it real better. And I want to say that instead of trying to change it or format it in a different way, I kind of like the fact that they just got away from it. So I think it was a good move, very surprising move, but definitely a really good move.
But while I'm not shedding any tears over the abandonment of Rampages, it also stands out that nothing has been introduced to take their place. I was glad Capcom decided to experiment with a new quest type like that, even if its appeal ultimately didn't last, and the fact that a central feature of Rise has been gutted rather than improved in Sunbreak leaves this expansion feeling far thinner. That's a
I don't think I would call it any thinner. I mean, you can tell, at least in my eyes, that they kind of replaced it with the follower quest and the follower surveys. Like that's the new thing that's supposed to be replacing the rampages. And in fact, I think it adds so much more to the game, especially accounting for like you're learning when you do the follower quest. You also learn so much about the characters, the AIs that you're hunting with, as well as how they interact with other characters. I think that actually builds up the world of Monster Hunter Rise a lot more than the rampages were doing, if I'm being completely honest. So I definitely wouldn't say that the game feels thinner because they got rid of rampages. Like, it would have been nice to see them revamp it and make it, better, but I don't see it really as a detriment to the game.
Especially true compared to the likes of Iceborne, which introduced clever new ideas of its own to world, most notably the Guiding Lands as an interesting take on its endgame. In contrast, later on, Sunbreak just ramps up monster difficulty with a small but amusing twist I can't spoil, and while that certainly kept me happily playing, it doesn't inspire the same sort of newfound excitement.
Yes, we don't have the Guiding Lands, but we have Citadel. I feel as though it should be pretty obvious, at least to me, that is supposed to be, if not similar, but like the same thing, because Citadel encompasses the different environments that monsters could be in. On top of that, we have expeditions, which were pretty much the same thing. As it was the same functionality as the Guiding Lands. You go on an expedition to Citadel, and you can hunt basically almost all of the monsters in the game. So it's I feel like I feel like this is just wrong. Like, it's the same thing.
Plenty to do in Sunbreak. After more than 40 hours, I still have gear I want to chase and optional tasks I want to complete, but there just aren't that many fresh ideas to help it stand out as a whole lot more than a bunch of cool new monsters to fight. To that end, nearly every mainline quest sticks to the standard hunt.
I don't know what kind of fresh ideas you're looking for between, the new monsters. I mean, you have all the switch skills to play around with and multiple different ways to go about hunts. Now you have multiple different sets with new skills and new abilities for you to attack hunts in different ways. I mean, you even unlock amongst the base switch skills that you get when you start Sunbreak, you also unlock double, like even more switch skills after I think like MR4 or something, that allows you to approach, that almost completely changes weapon move sets. So I'm not too sure what this person is looking for or what they're referring to when they say fresh ideas. Like, are they thinking about like bringing underwater combat back, or are we talking about like aerial combat, like on some Monster Hunter Stories type stuff? What are you talking about?
With nothing like World's colossal Zora Magdaros fights, Iceborne's Celiana defense against Velkhana, or even Rise's admittedly one-note rampages to at least try and shake things up. Again, every single quest I went on was still a ton of fun, but Sunbreak can start feeling pretty familiar by the end.
Let's see how you handle this!
I feel like that's the thing, that like that's what it's supposed to be. Like that's just a sequence of a series of video games within that like it's supposed to still feel familiar, yet you have all these new things to explore. And I feel like they're just brushing over all the minute things that change up the game and are very impactful to the differences between the base game, other games, and this game.
The one place this expansion does do something truly interesting is in its follower quests. As you progress up Master Rank, townsfolk in both Elgato and Kimura will ask to accompany you on specific single-player quests as AI-controlled hunters. Doing their quests will unlock those people as options in support survey.
And I would just like to say they did such an amazing job with the AI for follower quests. The follower quest AI is so goddamn good. It's not even a joke. Like, you know how there's the meme of of what, like fetch quests with AI, and how like you're always trying to account for the AI, like you can't run too fast or else you leave them behind, and you always gotta watch out for them in a fight. No, that is not the case. You can literally go on follow request and it feels the same, if not better, than hunting with actual people. It's absurdly good, and it's absurdly fun to hear all the quips that the characters of Sunbreak, have interactions with each other, like Lucica and Fio, going back at it with her like super enthusiastic hunting style, and all. It's just the AI is so goddamn good.
Quests, also limited to single player, where you can pick 2 as your party members. The hunts themselves aren't exactly challenging or unique, but the AI is surprisingly sophisticated, using items, mounting monsters, and even placing traps before standing behind them and emoting for you to come and wait with them.
And they will do that. They will keep doing that too until the monster gets caught. I would say that's my only gripe about the AI is if they'll place a trap sometimes and then stand behind it and be like, hey, over here, hey, I got a trap. Hey, over here. Hey, I got a trap. Hey, over here. And it's like, hey, just tone it down. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Here, ASAP.
It's not as robust as a whole single-player campaign or anything, with follower quests still initially unlocked through multiplayer story progress, but it does make grinding for specific monster parts on your own a whole lot more fun. The followers you bring along will banter amusingly with each other during a quest, and it was nice to get to know these characters better by actually going out into the field and hunting with them.
Makes me proud. We ride.
Followers are so well implemented, in fact, that it's a bit disappointing you can't use them to fill empty seats in multiplayer quests as well. It seems like a pointless restriction, especially when a follower can sometimes accompany you into a handful of specific multiplayer urgent quests. But apart from the big additions, Sunbreak brings a slew of quality of life improvements too. One notably smart tweak to the way you pick your pre-hunt meals lets you alter the effectiveness of each Dango ability by changing the order you select them, adding some neat decision-making to the process. You can now quickly swap between 2 loadouts of switch skills in the middle of a hunt too, massively expanding your potential moveset. Similarly, buddies can now be customized more than ever, letting you change out special moves and skills to build the ultimate Palico without having to rely as much on finding your ideal randomized cat. There's nothing earth-shattering in all of these updates, but it's great that pretty much every system has been touched in.
I don't know if you've seen the super healing Palico or like the super attack buff Palico setups that you can go for, but it's definitely OD. Like the kind of healing you can get from Palico, or kind of support that you can get from Palicos now, especially since you can customize them so much. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't say it's earth shattering, but it's definitely much more than just basic quality of life change.
Some welcome way. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak is a relatively simple expansion, but that doesn't mean it isn't a whole lot of fun. The new and returning monsters and locales are all top-notch, and the renewed grind is one I'm excited to spend lots more time in. That said, Sunbreak isn't nearly as substantial or surprising as Iceborne was for Monster Hunter World, lacking fresh ideas beyond clever AI followers that are restricted to single-player hunts, and even abandoning rampage quests without really trying to fill the gap their absence has left. Flying through the air on Rise's wire bugs is still an absolute blast though, and anyone who enjoyed the base game will definitely enjoy the shot in the arm Sunbreak's creative monsters provide, even if you may eventually start to feel like you're hunting through a familiar jungle in more ways than one.
I feel like a 7 is fair, right? I feel like there's definitely people forget about the subjectiveness of reviews like this. Like, that's understandable. Like, if you're more wowed by one thing and you are expecting something else from, you know, from Sunbreak, then I can understand the perspective there. So I don't understand why, like, apparently this video had a lot of dislikes, way more dislikes than it did likes, but I think it was fine. Like, this comment is saying, like, about him comparing it to World and Iceborne. Here's my thing. I think it's okay for comparison's sakes. I mean, it's almost impossible to not harbor some expectations when it's the following game from a game that you've enjoyed, you know, so much. However, I do wish there was a bit more objective criticism, I guess, and less more comparative criticism, because while it does harbor some similarities just because it is Monster Hunter, I don't think it's fair to compare it so much, especially with how unique of a game it is. So when it comes to, I guess, my final like perspective on the review itself, I'm not gonna sit here and be like a super Monster Hunter fanboy, and like I tend to be a very unbiased person and look things more objectively. I don't see anything too really wrong with the review. Yes, it's a bit annoying because of the comparison between Iceborne and this game, but it's almost inevitable, I think. When it's a second, you know, Monster Hunter with an expansion, and then it's another Monster Hunter, and you're comparing the expansion to the expansion. I think there could have been more that could have been touched on, like things like the actual monster or weapon balance changes, or a lot of the balance changes between base Rise and Sunbreak that I think did a lot for the game. Personally, would I give Sunbreak a 7 out of 10? No, I would definitely give it much higher. I would personally give it probably an 8. Right now, 8 or 9. The review itself that IGN did, I don't see anything too wrong with it. Sue me, I guess, if you disagree, but that's gonna be it. That's my little reaction to this review. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Tell me what you think about Sunbreak and what's your most enjoyable part about it, and let me know in the comments below. So without further ado, thank y'all for watching, and see you in the next one.